183 seats. Independents climbing to 4. What a dramatic shift. So, we'll be bringing you more, definitely. Our man Hanan is on the ground, right,
exactly,
Joshua?
Exactly.
Hanan is positioned at the Black Star
Square,
where we will be having that historic inauguration. I say his swearing in. Okay. Historic because for the first time in the Fourth Republic, we have a one-term former president coming back, not immediately after his first term, as we had seen with President Kufuor and Akufo-Addo. Right. This time round, he's coming
after an 8-year gap.
After an 8-year gap. Interesting.
And so clearly, you can understand the kind of importance people are put into this, because what we are picking up is that people have moved from far and near. And though the inauguration is tomorrow, the swearing-in is tomorrow, people are already at the venue to be able to capture their seats, because we were told that it can accommodate some 6,000 extra people, aside those who have been properly mandated to be there. We are looking at some extra 6,000 people. And if a nation of 33 million, we had a difference, a votes gap of over 1.7 million people who voted for the NDC, you are definitely sure to see that people are excited about it. And so to show that enthusiasm, people have already started moving to the venue, and we'll definitely be there and let people know how we are preparing for that. Mind you, even in Parliament now, things are shaping up.
Things are shaping up. Things are changing. And we put up a post on Facebook. Would it be Flagstaff House, or would it be maintained as Jubilee House? These are some of the dynamics we're expecting, even as the nation prepares for that swearing in tomorrow. But I must also say that the scenes are beautiful with the national colors, yellow, green, red, very prominent. That we are also expecting some dignitaries from Africa. Talk about African leaders, and we know there's also a delegation from the US president coming over, and so this is going to be one to watch. And this is where you're going to get all the gist, not only the hard news as we say it, even the side stories. Talk about the fashion. Talk about
I am anticipating John Dramani Mahama, but for me, I think the highlight from tonight would be Speaker Bagbin. What he decides to wear.
I know.
You know, today he came in a blue suit.
Yes.
With a colorful tie, which had red, which had white, which had black in his tie. And so I'm looking at Speaker Bagbin very toned down, and that is very unlike Speaker. So I am really excited to see what he will turn up in a couple of hours in Parliament for the inauguration of the 9th Parliament, because I mean it's very clear now, because John Dramani Mahama has told the NDC MPs, who make up what, 183 of them, that when you go and you need to vote, please choose Bagbin. So clearly,
and many have raised reservations about that. H. Kwesi Prempeh on Facebook put up a post where he actually thought that should not have been coming from president-elect. Of course, we know the dynamics around the executive, Parliament, and the judiciary. Unfortunately, in the past few years, that has played out really strongly, and for the benefit of democracy, and not having a Parliament that appears, or that will appear to be a rubber stamp one. As president-elect, you would even want to detach yourself from the processes. We know how these things go on in Parliament. Probably it shouldn't have come from him. It could have come from the NDC party. Then we would expect that there will be some differentiations as to separation of powers.
Clear separation. Well, Bidzidin has a response to that. He says that when you look at the wording of the statement put out by President-elect John Dramani Mahama, he says that that decision was taken in consultation with the now majority in Parliament. So it was not as though John Dramani Mahama sought to impose Bagbin on them. In fact, for them, it is just an affirmation of a proposal they sent to John Dramani Mahama. But like you said, and like Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh has said, it's how it looks like. It's the optics, how it presents itself as, okay, well, so we're having a speaker who was basically received endorsement from the president. And so would this speaker be able to stand up to the president when demands are being made that do not augur well for Parliament or for the Ghanaian people? Will the speaker have the courage to be able to speak against ills if they do appear? And that is why the concerns are there, because like you said, 3 arms of government, we need to see clear separation. Checks and balances, all right, but the separation also needs to be very visible for the people to understand that, yeah, well, Parliament is doing our work for us.
Yes.
And clearly, yeah, the optics are there. But, I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, if not Speaker Gbagbin, who? If not Gbagbin, who really would have been in the seat as Speaker of the 9th Parliament? So yes, those challenges are there and those concerns are raised. So yes, today it's going to be a very beautiful coverage, because we are going to span from Parliament all the way to the Black Star Square and bring you back to the studio, take you here and there. And so that is why you don't want to miss any part of this coverage. If I were you now, I'll be texting people, you know what, the best coverage for the inauguration of the 9th Parliament and also leading to the swearing in of John Dramani Mahama tomorrow is happening right here on GHOne television.
Right, and like you mentioned, the 9th Parliament will be a true test for Speaker Gbagbin. We've seen how he has conducted himself as Speaker of the 8th Parliament. Will we still see that critical person? We will still see Speaker Gbagbin is having a thing on me. Will we still see him to be as firm as he has been in the 8th Parliament?
Because interestingly also, Apanyo Markin mentioned today that there were points in time where Speaker appeared very partisan to them and they were not excited about that. But in all, Speaker Gbagbin performed creditably well. But Speaker Gbagbin in the 8th Parliament had a hung Parliament where the numbers were equal. So the 9th Parliament, which is predominantly NDC, like you rightly said, would be a true test. It will be a true test of Speaker Gbagbin's, his speakership in the 9th Parliament. And it's one of the things that I am really, really, really looking forward to.
Right, and so if you just joined us, this is your election hub, and as your word, tomorrow on the 7th of January, we are having the swearing in of President-elect John Dramani Mahama, who convincingly won the December 2024 polls. We know that he has met with President Akufo-Addo right after the election when the transition teams were inaugurated, but we also know that he's paid him another visit, and the President has welcomed him into the Jubilee House. Let's hope it stays that way. You know the politics around these things. So, and we'll be showing you snippets of that shortly. But like Joshua also mentioned, we have our men on the ground. We have people positioned at the various places to bring us the latest talk of the Independence Square, talk of Parliament, and also the Jubilee House.
Flagstaff House.
So let's show you President-elect John Dramani Mahama being welcomed to the Jubilee House.
History repeats itself at the Jubilee House as outgoing President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo once again welcomes President-elect John Dramani Mahama and Vice President-elect Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to the presidency.
So you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Madam Vice President-elect, you're welcome, and the rest of it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The meeting marks a significant moment of unity and collaboration in Ghana's democratic journey, particularly in the Fourth Republic. The outgoing President, Nana Akufo-Addo, expressed confidence in a smooth handover, indicating that his administration is fully committed to a seamless transition.
The whole process of the transition is working according to the letter and spirit of the law, and that we're now ready for your administration to take over the affairs of the country. So I'm very happy to see you, and I think the work of the transition has now virtually been completed. They've had their final meeting. That's the information that I've had. I believe I'm right in saying that. Yeah. And then all the other outstanding matters of the transition, Article 71, office holders, all these are now going to be dealt with by the Parliament. I've written to them my comments on the proposals that the Emoluments Committee sent to me. So we're in shape. The country is waiting for you as from tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're welcome.
In response, President-elect John Dramani Mahama expressed gratitude for the gesture, highlighting the significance of such collaborative transitions in fostering national unity.
It's a privilege to be here with you on the day before we have the inauguration. I want to thank you and your side of the transition team, Chief of Staff, for what has been a cordial and smooth transition, and we do think that we are quite ready, with the information we have to start to work immediately after we finish the inauguration tomorrow. It is conventional to meet on the last day and as it were take over the premises. We want to thank you for what has been a smooth transition, and you can count on us, even in government, that will continue the spirit of cooperation.
However, this is not the first time a transition has happened between the two. In January 2017, John Mahama, after serving a term, handed over power to President Akufo-Addo in upholding the democratic ideals Ghana is celebrated for.
I have said before that Ghana's success is all our success, and we need to work to ensure that government is a continuum and that we continue to build on whatever an outgoing government leaves and another government comes and takes over and builds on it. Governments will come and go, but Ghana must continue to progress.
As Ghana prepares for the upcoming inauguration, this moment serves as a powerful reminder of the nation's democratic resilience and shared vision of its leaders. For GHOne News, Abdul Hanan Adam, Jubilee House.
Beautiful, isn't it? That's what we practice here in Ghana, democracy. And we always have shown to be a very, very democratic nation. Talk about what we heard President Akufo-Addo say on campaign platforms about not handing over power to another who was rejected. But we see these beautiful scenes and they remind us of what makes us Ghanaians. Now let me take you to the Independence Square, where my colleague Araba Aidu is standing by for us.
In less than 24 hours, the President-elect, John Dramani Mahama, will be sworn in as the 6th President of the 4th Republic of Ghana. And the Independence Square, of course, also known as the Blaster Square, where I am currently standing, is where the whole event will be taking place. Now, if you can look around, there are various demarcations for the whole event, and I have with me the member of the planning committee for the inauguration, George Opariado, who is also the national youth organizer of the NDC, explaining to us the various demarcations here.
As it stands now, we're about 95% complete. You can clearly tell that the grounds are ready. By 12:30, the chairs will be fixed, and then we'll be ready to go. Every other thing that needs to be done has been done, so we are very much ready for the occasion tomorrow. This is a sitting of Parliament, so we are fixing the grounds to mimic Parliament. So this is the presidential days where His Excellency the President will be seated, the President-elect. The presidential days where the President-elect and then the outgoing President will be. What you see in the middle is where the President will take the oath of office. These are for invited guests of His Excellency the President, and then the dignitaries that will be coming. The other day you see there for the incoming heads of states, prime ministers, and then the various speakers of parliament that will be coming. These two, the red and green tents you see, are for invited guests that will be coming, and then right behind you is where Parliament will be seated, and so all the members of Parliament who will be sworn in tomorrow, later this evening or early this morning, will all be seated there, and then the Speaker himself will join His Excellency on the day here. So he's the Speaker that will usher in Parliament, and then the Chief Justice will administer the oath of office for the Vice President-elect and then the President-elect. So that is what you see here. The public will be in the public gallery. The judiciary will be on the first row right here where the red canopies are. the service commanders will follow, and then members of the incoming government, the political party, His Excellency, the NDC will be also here. Chiefs and then people of the diplomatic corps will be under the green canopies. I believe Ghanaians will turn out to cheer on the incoming presidents, and so we are expecting a very good event tomorrow. Ghanaians should come in, pray for His Excellency the incoming president, pray for Ghana, and then we should all be patient with the incoming government, because there is a lot of work to be done, and I believe that in due course we will fix Ghana and return Ghana back onto the path of prosperity.
I am Araba Edu, reporting from the Independence Square.
So that was Araba earlier in the day. Forgive me for that. Bringing us the scenes from the Independence Square. My colleague Hanan is there currently for us, and we'll be touching base with him much later tonight. But we've been joined by MP for Anyaso Trum, Mr. Adomako, or Dr. Adomako Kisi. And hello, it's good to have you here. You're still MP, right?
I'm trying to familiarize myself with former MP, the word former. So I think literally once the docket or curtain has been closed on the 8th Parliament, I think I can now officially call myself a former Member of Parliament, or for better words, just Dr. Adomako Kisi should be fine moving forward. But then again, I do my business for the MPP party, right. And I think that I may wear the hat of a member of the communication team, and then that'll settle it for the many viewers, because I do not want to misrepresent myself largely after tomorrow, right. And that comes with a lot of work if you're a member of parliament or seen to be a member of parliament. So I know some of the mails will still come to me in terms of people's request, right? In terms of school fees and all these other nice things that we do. But trust me, I'm very happy to be relieved of that for a while. It's a huge, laborious thing to do, in addition to the true work of legislative work or policy making. So as it stands now, I'm excited. I'm happy for the new entrants.
But you don't look it. You appear to be very somber and very reflective.
It's a transition period,
right?
And one, I know the enormity of the task ahead for even the new president, or shall I say, second coming of GHOne Mahama, because being in my small leadership role, I know what he's going through now, regardless. I've not been president before, but I know that he's asking himself, will I be able to deliver to the Ghanaian people in the manner they deem fit or they see fit? In this work, delivery is one thing, perception is another. And sometimes the two are difficult to marry, which is what you think you're doing and what the people perceive you to be doing. And if you don't master it carefully, you run into trouble. But today is a fantastic day. I am somber and reflective because people have used their thumb to make a decision. And we are nearing a firm departure from using arms. And that is what makes me happy. And I think that the ordinary Ghanaian now has a firmer belief that if they don't like an administration, they can pace themselves for 4 years and then make a decision when it matters. And I think that even during the second tenure, there were pockets of people that thought that we may have a coup d'etat. Trust me. And I'm happy that we've jawed up to this point where we didn't do a coup d'etat, and Ghanaians were patient with us and gave us a vote of no confidence, whether we like it or not. And I think that clearly the results are straightforward, somewhat 40 to 60%, and they have spoken. Granted, as politics is, the best may not necessarily win, or the most perceived competent person may not necessarily win, and it is what it is. So I'm happy for the ordinary Ghanaian, but still sad because we are in difficult times, both globally and locally. And when our sisters and cousins in the Canadas and in the US are unable to make a lot of money, foreign remittance to this country is reduced. And that impacts the masons and plumbers in this country.
Right.
And I can tell you for a fact that if it's not going well in the UK's, I know we will be impacted. And based on the grim economic outlook, today, Canada's Prime Minister stepped down.
Yeah.
And this is largely due to...
As a leader of his party.
Exactly. And this is largely due to some of the economic, conundrums that the whole world find themselves in. And as it stands, when the mighty are falling, whom am I? Who is Ghana? We won't have it easy. And whether we like it or not, if the MPP had won, things would still be tough,
right?
Regardless. And that one I can assure Ghanaians that in as much as we are relieving the MPP administration of governance, Ghanaians certainly won't have it easy. And many of the things that would have wished to prosecute, many of the things that would have wished for Ghanaians, reforms in our education, enrollment of more people in the free SHS program, whether we like it or not, will be a bit difficult. I've always worried specifically about the nutritional or dietary needs of our students, which admittedly under the current free SHS program was a challenge. Whether buffer stocks were the issue, whatever it was, the food on the table was not as rich as what I had when I was in St. Peter's several years back. So I mean, these are some of the harsh realities. And whether, it was MPP or NDC, this would be a challenge. And I think that I must admit, I've seen in the 120 days a forum or a discussion specifically related to education. And I'm hoping that the outcome of that will be an improvement of what we have. And I will patiently be watching to see what changes there are, which will lead to better dietary, timetable for our students. And then more importantly, the environment in which a lot of them find themselves either in boarding facilities or in day facilities. And I think that what I wish to tell Ghanaians is that new presidency, we've done well. However, regardless of who is at the helm of affairs, we are in trouble because worldwide things are tough. Inflation across the world is increased, which means that the same amount of money in your pocket cannot afford you the many things that you'd have wished to. But I'm excited for Ghanaians. I've seen that people are traveling into Accra from the northern region, southern, west, everywhere, to come and be a part of the inauguration. And for some of them to, as their members of parliament that have brought them to at least have a fair feel of how the beaches in Accra look like.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So yes, indeed, we are warming up to that. But let's talk about the 8th Parliament.
Okay.
You were a member of the 8th Parliament.
Yes.
Would you miss the 8th Parliament?
Oh, yes and no. Yes and no, in the sense that it was a hassle. And a huge turmoil, one that even the very experienced politicians will say was a different animal. I mean, no party goes into Parliament expecting their speaker to be from the opposition party, okay? And I know Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo never wished for a hanged Parliament, and also never wished that he had to deal with the animal, the beast, the whole idea of an opposition Speaker of Parliament. And I've stated on record, whether we like it or not, in as much as Alan Sumani Bagman is human, his NDC colors will show at any point in time. He's human. He's eaten, drunk, comrade Kool-Aid for over, almost 50 years. And once that has been the ideology, that has been his meal for several decades. When any MPP program comes, which is a government business, he'll look at it with the lenses of, the NDC ideology.
Right.
And you can't fault him for it. That is what he has become. And for that matter, I think that there were some issues that were clearly, a bit tilted or tainted with his NDC hat on.
So is that why the majority leader, for instance, mentioned today that there were points in time where they had cause to believe that the speaker was being partisan?
You can't fault him for it. I mean, if I was speaker, who knows? I mean, once my ideologies are MPP, when and if the NDC should bring a document, I'll put those lenses on and I'll look at it from that point of view, where we are, quote unquote, supposed to be very pro-business.
Right.
And in that sense, if your party is very pro-business, your first inclination is to give tax exemptions.
So, I mean, are there specific periods where you would say that those came to bear?
Well, e-levy was one, which is a handler to improve government revenues. And admittedly, listen, I can now sit here and state categorically that if we had an MPP Speaker of Parliament, members of Parliament would not have brawled about e-levy, because the Speaker may have told Ghanaians that this party withdrew a number of taxes unbeknownst to them that they needed them. If you understand what I'm saying, because when we came on board, and those were some of the classic unfortunate bits in our administration, in the sense that there were taxes that were bringing government revenue. We took them away. Then we added the expenditures of free senior high school and a lot of very progressive, very bold initiatives, which I think were somewhat a bit too much. And don't misquote me, but I can state here that opening 111 hospitals at a time.
Agenda 111.
I mean, in one breath, and completing 3 is a bit unfortunate. I would have promoted the idea and done 16, which I think we could have completed. Because we spread ourselves thin. And one thing that history will judge us by is that I think that we really just took on a lot.
Okay.
And we wanted to do too much in such a short time. And that may have worked against us, because the Ghanaian man and woman out there has pocketitis, is always looking at his monetary or pocket scenario, and not necessarily the plush hospital or school that you are providing, or the quantum of students who are enjoying those services.
Right.
And I think that if we had maybe been very focused on a few things and done it very well, who knows? Maybe many would have appreciated it much better.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about this and talking about e-levy, and now making these pronouncements about Agenda 111.
Oh,
But did you ever, either as an individual or MPs who are like-minded, we saw what you did with Ken Must Go, for example. Did you do similar with this particular Agenda 111 project? Was there a critical voice about it? Seeing that you were even in the health sector, medical doctor to be precise.
I mean, listen. When the docket was closed, or the curtain got closed on the Agenda 111, and our president stated that 3 of them were what was completed. Now in hindsight, we have to look at some things. And then from a business standpoint, clearly, the quantum of monies that have been spread thin on about 90 of those projects, trust me, if we had concentrated on 16, I know for sure we would have at least finished 16 for Ghanaians to have 1 per region and then add on. I mean, these are just my thoughts. And you can argue that 99 creates more jobs, but is it effective jobs? And I've never been a fan of uncompleted projects. I have never. I can't in my life I try to appreciate it. I was in parts of, Bronga half when I saw projects that were not completed. I was in a Bitifi, saw a hospital that was started by the NDC and still not completed. So I'm of the opinion that, listen, I would have thought, and as part of Ghana's development agenda, we ought to start and finish, not to start plenty, start a few and finish. And my recommendation now also to, I know grassroots must chop, but I think that there should be very innovative ways of making grassroots have something, and let's do something that is doable, more so than over expanded. And now that the administration is over, I mean, we can ask ourselves, because it is, I mean, we came like the E-blocks. I think John Dramani Mahama's administration took on too much.
Okay.
And I made that statement then, and I think the same thing applies also to the 111. And we did well. I can at least say that GHOne, through their leadership, tried to finish not less than 20 of the E-blocks. So that shows that we did some continuity there. But that still means that the deficit, the numbers that the Mahama administration had hoped to complete were still too big.
And that seems to not be a thing with just the MPP or the NDC. It looks like it runs in both administrations, because your government, for instance, 1 village, 1 dam, 1 constituency, $1 million, 1 district, 1 factory. And now people are even asking, where are the factories? Where are this and that? So you feel that you told the people too much.
Quite overambitious.
Yes, very
well.
ambitious.
I mean, that is one key thing I'm saying here, that, listen, after some introspection, I really think that the ambition was quite heavy, and audacious, and it's good to imagine things that are almost beyond life or beyond where we are, but I think that it also spread us too thin, and we then borrowed more than revenues were coming in, and we've suffered for it, and sometimes the managerial decision. And if you are at the center of the managerial decision and Titanic sinks, then you can then look back and say, you know what, maybe it was nice to have very powerful forward-looking statements, but we should have been measured or a bit more,
toned down
in our ambitions.
But let's go back to the 8th Parliament and talk about Sarah Adjo-Asafo.
Fantastic woman.
And I know that because I've engaged some of your colleagues.
Beautiful woman.
I've engaged some of your colleagues on the other side who actually believe that she wasn't treated right by your party and the government.
Nobody's ever treated right. That much I can tell you.
Because
on authority.
because of her absence, and we know that she was absent, as we were told, to attend to some critical family matters and all. But we know that there are conversations about a certain health issue. I will come back to get you on that one, because Joshua has to do.
Yes, we also need to introduce into the conversation governance expert Professor Bafo Ajimandria. Prof, thank you so much, and a happy New Year to you. Prof, if you could just unmute for us so that we can hear you.
You hear me now?
I hear you now, Prof. Happy New Year to you.
Great. Happy New Year to you and your colleagues.
Fantastic.
Keep on doing the good job you do.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, too, for joining us. I mean, today we are seeing a lot, and we are also assessing the 8th Parliament, which people have described as one of the interesting parliaments that we've had since the inception of our democracy. So basically, what would be your assessment of how the 8th Parliament performed?
Well, thank you. First of all, it's clear that the 8th Parliament has been a very unique parliament in this 4th Republic, and perhaps even in previous republics, for one single reason, which is that it was the first time we have what we call the hung parliament, which means no one political party dominated. So just one difference. And it created an opportunity for a stronger opposition to emerge. In other words, because of the balance in power between the two dominant parties in parliament, it was difficult for any one party uses numbers to kind of dominate. So that was quite significant. Secondly, it's the first parliament we have had in the Republic, and I'm looking at the chest of the speaker, which is very interesting outfits, which is one of the interesting things we saw in the 8th Parliament. First time that a speaker was elected from a party, not the ruling party, but the opposition party. And that also has it has had a very telling effect on the work of Parliament this time around. And then, of course, we know that these two combined helped the opposition.
Apologies for that. We lost Prof there, but Prof was just sharing with us what his assessment of the 8th Parliament is.
And interestingly, you mentioned the speaker and how he's been chosen to dress.
Yes.
And that's why I'm excited about what he's likely to wear tonight going into
So while we work the lines to get Prof back, as we were talking about the 8th Parliament, and one of the highlights has to do with the absence of Sarah Adjoa MP for Dom Kwabena, who was not re-elected to go on the ticket of the party, and the one who was Michael Quay lost. Okay, I think we have Prof back.
Yes,
we can
Prof,
try and engage him.
We lost you briefly there.
That.
Right.
I was just recounting some of the remarkable aspects of the 8th Parliament. And I think I mentioned the fact that it's the first time we have the hung Parliament. Second, the first time we had the Speaker of Parliament coming from the minority side, so to speak. And of course, these two combined enabled the opposition to be very strong, very assertive, and successfully holding the government to account. For instance, for the first time, we had a private members' bill being passed successfully. We're talking here about the gender bill that I've forgotten the full title of the bill, but you know the bill that brought some equality to the gender in our society. Then also, more importantly, of what became very controversial, the LGBT+++ bill, which still, I think, rests on the desk of the president. So these were important things. And then also, talking about accountability, it was very, very significant that this time around, we have some individuals in the minority side who became
Professor Bafo Ajimandria. governance expert, speaking to us on his assessment of the 8th Parliament. But we're still here in studio with the Member of Parliament for Anya Sotum and Dr. Dixon Adumakum. And I mean, earlier my colleague was asking that question about Sarah Adwoa-Safo and how it all played out with her, especially. You mentioned that, I mean, in reality, nobody's really treated rightly.
Yes, I mean, Parliament is not a spoon-feeding place. You have to work your way out to get what you deserve.
Right.
And sometimes what you rightly deserve, you'll be deprived of it for various reasons. So it will be unfortunate for anybody to think that Honorable Adwoa-Safo was the only person that was not treated right. All of us have our challenges. Everybody and how they deal with it. And I think that personally, I mean, I'm not the best expert to delve into her issues. I just think that she's a fantastic person.
Right.
And for whatever reasons she had to absent herself, I mean, we'll leave that for the future. But as it stands, one, she lost her bid during the primaries and cannot be faulted for what happened beyond that. I think that invariably the global trend impacted the entire nation. The ANC in South Africa had a huge blow. They lost like they've never lost before. Great Britain, same thing happened, where the party lost in places they had never lost, you know. And I think that in hindsight, even the Indian story, where they lost, colossal politicians lost in India. So I think that in hindsight, the MPP one should have braced ourselves or been extraordinary in confronting the impending, now what we call doom, that hit us. And like many other countries, we were not immune to the global trend that impacted incumbent governments. And some may ascribe the issues to the economy, some may ascribe it to the global wars, some may ascribe it to the post-COVID challenges facing many countries. Others have different arguments, but as it stands, what is very clear in 2024 is that many incumbent governments suffered, were slaughtered. And Ghana is an example, as even in Germany and other European countries. And I'm not here to really compare myself necessarily to the Western world only. I stated more importantly the ANC
in South Africa,
and in South Africa, and we literally do a lot of things like the Brits in this country.
Okay.
And if we compare ourselves to the Brits, who we think have an okay economy, they even suffered based on the issues and feeling of the people, that they felt that government had not reduced their electricity bills, government was not attending to their health needs appropriately, and for that reason, they shut government down and brought in a whole different Stan Meyer or whatever his name is, who's under another era would not have had a chance at all.
Right.
So as it stands, we need to look on the bright side. I think we've entered a new year. Enough of the wailing, enough of the crying. The grieving moment should be over, and we now need to sit down and face the humble pie and eat a humble pie. And then face our challenges head on, so that within the shortest possible time we can recover fully and be able to bounce back stronger. My focus for the party should be how to, first of all, win our seats back. I think winning an election largely depends on winning your seats. And if we're able to do that, we've lended Dominic Kobenya to the NDC for a brief moment, and they know it. This is a fact. By virtue of the numbers in Dominic Kobenya, if we change some things, which we ought to, if we don't change, then it will go forever.
What are those things you need to change?
One very basic thing is how we approached the election in Dominic Kobenya. In the US, Trump won based on religion. And we cannot skip the fact that Adjo Safo's father's church has a huge constituency, has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. And I'm citing that because I think that it is an outlier. If we should go into the Doma enclave and how we lost there, the dynamics will be different. It might not be church-related. It might be the fact that Asiedin Ketia is from that area and may have worked more and pumped in more resources. So the factors are at variance.
Yeah.
When it comes to Greater Accra, which I'm part of, I think that we lost touch with what the Greater Accra residents want. And I think that we need to revisit it carefully and be more in tune with what the Greater Accra people want. And I fear to say this, but I need to say it. It's not a very cosmopolitan area. Tribe doesn't necessarily matter. We have religion also not necessarily mattering. But we need to look at it also case by case basis and then look at the nuances in every place and correct. And I think that the party primarily needs to revisit what it was that drew people to it. As Frimpong Boateng stated categorically that the manner of the MPP that he imbibed or that attracted him to the party had changed form and shape.
And you agree?
And also, Honorable Ejako also came out publicly and stated that some had resigned from the party by virtue of some of the things that the party had done in their hearts, and would show us on the day of election that they have truly resigned in a very silent way.